have reached Veterans in Politics. Today we gonna have a guest host, Melody Howard. Hey, Melody, how you doing?
Hi there.
Okay, this is Steve Sands and Andre Haynes. Our guest is going to be Diane Hill Smith, Canadian veteran out of, I believe, Niagara Falls, and we're going to be talking about rape in the military. And then we're going to have Jillian Mack, who is the finance director for the Libertarian Party, and I believe she's also chapter president for the state of Ohio as well. And we're going to have Larry Brown, who is the Clark County Board of Commissioners, and he's up for an election this year. What's going on, guys?
Relaxing. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey, you know, but before we go into any rants or anything like that, I just wanted to give our thoughts and prayers to Damaray Sims, who is the adopted son of Marshall Kimball Sims. Apparently, she lost her son last week, died of chronic asthma, which caused his heart to stop and a lack of oxygen to the brain. So I just want to take a couple seconds to express our condolences. Okay. And I just found out about that today.
And also the families and the different individuals who are impacted on the East Coast and the parts of the South by Superstorm Sandy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, can't forget about them. Although when I look out my window, it's nice and sunny, so I kind of lose track. You know, I say the same thing about our military men and women that serve overseas. Just because there's a bomb not blowing up next door or down your street, that doesn't mean they're not fighting for freedom as well. So,
all right.
Any rants, guys?
Yeah. Did you hear the case about the first woman in Nevada, Las Vegas, Henderson, actually to be arrested for voter fraud?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was the Democratic way.
I don't know.
Vote early, vote often.
Yeah, but in the story I read, I think it was in the Sun or the RJ. I want to say the Sun, but she went and she voted. The story is she voted at one place and she went somewhere later on and tried to vote again, and the police were there and they apprehended her and they took her in.
Actually, it was FBI.
It was FBI.
Yeah, she voted at Anthem Community Center, and then she went down Eastern and found another place to vote.
It's like they were waiting for her. Were they had a GPS on her?
I mean, you know, and from the story, it sounds like she only voted twice. I mean, I understand it's a crime, but not a dozen times, and not like she casted 1,000 votes. Just,
I think Larry Lomax is doing a really great job in terms of getting a grip on voter fraud. I think the Elections Department has a really good handle on it.
But you know that the interesting thing is, in my experience, I volunteered to work the polls the last few years, and you know we were trained that people have to show ID and standard operating procedure. And I saw some of the other volunteers with me; they didn't.
No ID is required in Nevada.
Yeah, no. I know not now, but a few years ago, because I did it at the school, and I still have my book. They said the person had to show ID, and we had to cross-reference it with the list that we had.
Oh, my understanding.
It was primaries.
2008 was a little different, and in 2010, the Elections Department really put some more strongholds on it. When you sign that little sticker when you go to register to vote, they'll check your signature, and they actually have a picture of your signature.
Right. Yes, in the book. That's right.
On their screen, so that they can check it, and it's been real helpful.
Did you actually work the polls for election day?
Yeah.
For the electoral?
Mm-hmm.
For primary?
Well,
awesome.
they turned me down.
Why? Well, let me see the letter. Did you get?
Yeah.
Why'd they turn you down?
I went to the training.
They
for
know who you are.
And I went to the training for clerk, and they said that my attitude and everything was excellent, but I can't work because I failed the evaluation. I think my name failed the evaluation because I hardly said a word when I was there.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because to be completely honest with you, I was always the youngest person there, and they did not have a person other than myself under the age of 65. And there were a lot of times when they just, not all of them, but some of the people, they had problems reading, eyesight, and sometimes it slowed down the process.
What does that have to do with me?
I don't know. You know what it might be? Dark-skinned black people are launching a campaign against light-skinned black people. So it's probably a dark black person working in. No, it's probably your name, man. They know who you are.
Melody, you got anything?
I'm good.
Well, let's take a commercial break. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes, Melody Howard, Veterans in Politics. Don't go away, folks. We're going to have Diana Hill Smith, who is the Canadian veteran in Canada. We'll be right back. Join the Nevada election coverage on the KLAV Roundtable November 5th from 7 to 10 p.m. with Steve Sanson, Sir Cooper, Miguel Barrientos on your dial at AM 1230. Don't miss it.
The KLAV Roundtable, a Nevada pre-election special. Monday, November 5th, 7 to 10 p.m. Our hosts will discuss the impact and significance our votes will have. Join us Monday night at 7.
Hello, my name is Steve Sanson. I'm the president of Veterans in Politics International. This country and state are in trouble with budget cuts, unemployment, foreclosures, teacher shortage, dropout rates, terrorism, and a loss of military service members. The outcome of this election will profoundly affect families, both military and non-military. Military men and women are dying for other countries to have the right to vote. As a former member of the United States Marine Corps and the Army, I know how important it is to keep the voters informed. Log on to the website veteransinpolitics.com. All Americans of voting age need to not only vote, but research your choices. The Veterans in Politics organization has taken a proactive approach to supporting candidates who will have the courage to protect all of our freedoms and our Constitution. Visit our website at veteransinpolitics.com. Don't just talk about who you support. Research your choices and vote.
Been there for 100 years.
All right, we are back. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes, and Melody Howard with Veterans in Politics. We're gonna talk to our guest Diana Hill Smith, who is the Canadian veteran calling out of Niagara Falls. Diane, how you doing?
I'm doing very well today. How are you?
I'm doing real good. You calling out of Niagara Falls, Canada, correct? Or right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was joined the military in 1980. It was something I always wanted to do. I loved airplanes and grew up around airplanes. And I was gang raped in the military because I was one of the first women into the trades at the time. And there were certain people who didn't like women into the trades, and they would do almost anything to force us out.
Gang rape. What do you? Could you be more specific? What do you mean?
There were 4 guys who grabbed me in the change room, and they raped me. They held me down and raped me.
I'm very sorry to hear about that.
And these were all.
Oh, it's okay.
These were all. These were all soldiers.
Yes, they were. They were all soldiers.
And what did you do? How did you? I mean, did you bring it up to the authorities? What?
They told me if I opened my mouth, I would be killed. And I was on a remote posting at the time with no way of getting off the base. And I was new to the military, and I had no idea who to report it to because they don't teach you that kind of thing in boot camp. And I just had nowhere to go and no one to talk to. And, I was afraid they were going to kill me because shortly after that I had acid dumped on me. My safety harness broke. My hydraulic lift broke while I was on it. There were a lot of accidents that happened afterwards. So I was being warned. And of course, in the military, grenades go off and guns get fired and stuff like that. There's always that fear.
Yeah. Diane, now you're speaking out now. Did you ever report it at all? when you...
I only reported it this spring.
Wow. Now, does Canada have a new program? I know that the United States has a new program that they implemented in April. Is Canada also doing the same thing where you can now basically report these atrocities?
We've always been able to report it. It's how it's handled. That's the problem.
Right. I understand that. And
we don't have a statute of limitations on rape in Canada either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do.
Which is nice.
So how old were you and how long ago was this?
Oh, I was 19 when it happened, and I'm 50 now, and I suffer from chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. And because I can't go shopping by myself, and I can't go into crowds, there's a lot of things I'm not capable of doing. I knew with my 2 children leaving, because my daughter's in university and my son's in college now, I knew I had to get myself handled so that I could continue to live life without them.
So Diane, you said you were you were 19 when it happened?
Yes.
And you're 50 now?
Yep.
That was what, 31 years ago?
Yep.
Well, why now are you bringing this up?
Because why am I bringing it up? Because after I did some research on it and found out what was going on, and read some of the issues from the Service Women's Action Network in the States, I decided that nobody's doing anything about it here in Canada, and somebody has to step up to the plate, and somebody has to let people know that this is going on.
How long have you been out, military?
Oh, I got out in '83.
Okay.
I got the message.
You did 2 years. 3.
I did 3 years, yeah.
So you're not bringing this up to seek justice against the 4 individuals that took advantage of you. You're just bringing this up to stop it from happening to other female soldiers, correct?
Other females and other males, yes.
Okay. And
there is an investigation into my case, and I know because of the age of my case, it'll probably never be solved, and I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. But the system needs to be worked, and the system needs to be overhauled.
I'll agree.
And this needs to stop happening. I'm reading right now on a report from a woman in the U.S. Air Force about her situation.
So what policies do they have in place right now as far as once a male or female gets raped in the military in Canada, what are the policies that one has to go through?
It's supposed to be reported to the military police. If you go to your master corporal, your warrant officer, your captain, and say, this happened to me, he's supposed to take it to the military police. They're supposed to launch an investigation. The military families has a safe house for the victim to go to if she's being threatened or feels threatened. The house is supposed to be patrolled by police 24/7. The person who is the accused is supposed to be removed from the area, and an investigation is supposed to be launched, but our military police just don't have the training to do an investigation. Basically, they're glorified security guards with guns. They don't have the training.
Is Canada doing anything about training specialized forces at all?
They say they are, but I don't see it happening.
Was there like a rape kit or DNA samples or things like that are part of standard operating procedure?
Our hospitals, our base hospitals, are not equipped with that. If you get raped, you have to go to a civilian hospital.
Wow.
And the problem with that is if you have a rape kit done at the hospital, a civilian hospital, it is your responsibility to make sure all of your medical files are transferred back to the base. Now, if the victim handles their own files, it's a breach, and the evidence cannot be used in a court of law.
Wow.
So having the MPs go and get it, and I know there have been a few cases in Canada where the rape kits have been taken back to the base, and the rape kits have gotten lost.
They're not delivered to JAG or anything?
No, because JAG is not involved at that point. It's just the military police at that point.
Wow.
And you know yourself, when you're a lower rank, you only get trained to do your job, not, heavy-duty investigating and stuff like that.
I know when I joined the Army and I did my basic training, which was in 1982, they actually did train us in a way that we were to report any types of incidents. I never had anything happen to me, so I don't know how well the system worked, but I do know that there was a proper chain of command. And I know also, though, that a lot of women have been raped in our U.S. military, and they're not getting the proper treatment that they deserve. Some have been kicked out without even being eligible for veterans benefits because they're using a medical disability and trying to pin it on a pre-existing condition. So they're stripping them of their veterans benefits, which is an absolute shame. And I hope that changes real soon and they get redress for that.
Yeah, the same thing's going on here. The exact same thing is going on here.
So how do you propose to change that, Diane?
Well, first of all, this is the first time I'm bringing real public awareness to this. And I know there's a lot of people out there in Canada listening right now. And I have, go ahead. Since I came out with this, I've had more than 80 women and 2 men come forward and tell me what happened to them in the military. So I am putting together their stories, and a lot of them are suffering from chronic depression and PTSD, and, some of these women never came out and said anything. And, the one case I've got, this one woman, she was a lesbian in the military, and the guys raped her to turn her into a real woman. And how do you come forward with that? How do you report that? But there's the stories are all different, but they're pretty much all the same. It's like there was nobody to turn to, and when they did report it, they were told, "Look, shut up, or your career's over.
Suck it up."
Suck it up. Be a good soldier.
Has there ever been any reports of rape victims retaliating against the perpetrators?
Not that I can find. The statistics and the reports are pretty much covered up. Everything's been well hidden. There are statistics, but they're not consistent. As far as charging the perpetrators go, a lot of the stuff gets knocked down to a lesser charge, like touching or conduct unbecoming or something very minor. But with rape, most of the victims usually end up with PTSD and severe depression. So coming out and being able to even do what I'm doing now is...
Well, you're not getting proper treatment. I mean, you're not getting counseling. You're not getting medical attention. You're basically being told to suppress all those feelings, and that would result in depression and PTSD and a whole host of other problems.
And most of you guys have all been in the military. How do you trust the person that's beside you?
Yeah. Are there any advocacy groups that they could reach out to?
Pardon me, the advocacy groups that what?
That they could reach out to women or men victim of rape that they could reach out to?
Actually, I'm the only one that they can reach out to right now.
So there's no advocacy groups in Canada in the military that would govern this type of problem?
A very good friend of mine, Dan Slack, started the United Federation of Canadian Veterans. And he has been backing me up so much to the point that he actually got me medical help and helped me do the research, and he's helping me put the paperwork together in order to present it to Parliament. Other than that, no, there's nowhere where we can turn to. There's no one we can go to.
Do you have any members of Parliament that can assist you to move this forward?
Well, I was getting the typical form letter when I wrote to them. Yes, we'll look into this. Thank you for your information, typical form letter stuff. But this week when I sent them out emails inviting them to listen to the radio show, I've gotten over 20 phone calls and over 40 emails from members of Parliament who actually care all of a sudden.
That's
Would you like to commemorate any of those and mention their names and thank them for listening?
She doesn't know if they're listening, though.
Yeah, there's one in particular I'd like to thank. Mr. Rob Nicholson, who's the Minister of Justice in Canada. He's my member of Parliament, and I would like to thank him for not responding to my email in 7 years. Well done, sir. I see how you treat justice in this country.
Diane, have you reached out to any of the media outlets in Canada?
CBC is now looking into it, and they're actually starting to do some research into this. And they're going to do a radio show called The Current. And the guy who's doing all of the research contacted me this week, and he said that they are really seriously thinking about turning this into a TV documentary.
I wish you a lot of luck in getting that. I think that would be amazing.
Yep.
Well, I have a feeling that there's a lot of people who are not going to like me.
There's going to be a lot of people who will step forward, though, as a result, and they will appreciate all of your efforts.
Yes. Back in '92, Maclean's Magazine did an article, and over 100 women came forward.
Wow.
And out of those women that came forward, there were only 3 cases that were tried in court.
Diane, how could the listeners get a hold of you in case they want to help you with your cause?
DianeHillRose@gmail.com.
Okay. Diane, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, and I hope that you become stronger from it and help other folks that might be in a similar situation that's more recent.
Well, I'm dealing with a woman who was just raped 6 weeks ago in our military.
Okay.
And I really hope more women will come forward. And the bullying and the harassment and the rape needs to stop, and our government needs to start handling this properly.
And maybe they need to probably take a good look on who they're putting in the military to make sure they're not putting in any pedophiles or any rapists in any country's military. Make sure that the military is for what it's supposed to be, spreading democracy and keeping countries safe.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do a police check on someone who's 18 years old, Oh, it's a lot of these guys and girls, they join when they're 17, 18 years old, and it's hard to get any background on them in the beginning.
Yeah, but it starts somewhere. Inappropriate touching. I mean, it's not very often that somebody just turns around and goes out and says, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go attack that woman.
Yeah.
Or man.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman, I only have a cell number, I don't want to give that out, but his name is Mike, and he's the publisher of Vancouver Lifestyles magazine. Owns a very large online publication there. You can Google that, and once you get his information, share your story with him and tell him Andre in Vegas referred you.
I will do that.
All right, Diane, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dan, thank you for
Thank
putting
you
yourself
very
out
much.
there this way.
That's Diane Hill, a Canadian veteran, and we'll be right back momentarily. This is Steve Sands, Andre Haynes, Melody Howard. We're Veterans in Politics. We'll be back with Jillian Mack.
Did you see the press release Veterans in Politics sent out in support of Clark County District Court Judge Alicia Kadish to the federal bench?
Yes, in 2008, Veterans in Politics endorsed 22 judicial candidates in the primary. Only 4 candidates did not become a judge. This was the same year they endorsed District Court Judge Alicia Kadish. Judge Kadish was one of the 18 of their endorsed recipients that is a sitting judge today.
Yeah, they take pride in their selection of candidates, especially when it comes to our judges. Judges are the first line of defense, and they immediately impact our daily lives.
I wonder if anybody knows that Judge Kadish was appointed to the district court seat by former Republican Governor Jim Gibbons to replace former district court judge Joe Bonaventure.
Yeah, as a jurist, Judge Kadish consistently demonstrates fairness, impartiality, and a dedication to upholding the law, regardless of whether she agrees with it. She follows the law and not legislates from the bench, which is what Republicans look for in a jurist.
Yeah, it is ironic to say the least that Republican U.S. Senator Dean Heller is now blocking Judge Kadish's federal judicial nomination because she insisted on following the law.
What he is using is a questionnaire Judge Kadish filled out in May 2008 from the group Citizens of Responsible Government. They asked Judge Kadish a question concerning the Second Amendment. The question they ask is, do you believe the individual citizen has a constitutional right to keep and bear arms?
I remember that. Kadish responded, I do not believe that there is this constitutional right, but I believe that reasonable restrictions may be imposed on gun ownership in the interest of public safety. Of course, I will enforce the laws as they exist as a judge.
That was a correct statement of law at the time. Individual citizens did not have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Reasonable restrictions could be imposed on gun ownership in the interest of public safety. Therefore, Judge Kadish's response demonstrated that she was well-versed and knowledgeable in this important area of the law. Moreover, she indicated she would enforce the law as they exist. In other words, Judge Kadish not only understood the law, but affirmed she would apply it regardless of her personal opinion.
Yeah, later the law changed. In District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus City of Chicago, the United States Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment protects an individual right to possess firearms and that this right is fundamental and fully applicable to the states through incorporation in the 14th Amendment.
I remember that. After the Heller and McDonald decisions, Judge Kadish again confirmed that she would be bound by the law, not a personal opinion, and as such, if asked the same question today, she would respond, I believe that there is a constitutional right for individuals to keep and bear arms, and I would make clear that I would faithfully apply the Biden precedent on the issue, starting with the Heller and McDonald decisions.
This is Steve Sands, Andre Haynes, Melody Howard, the Veterans in Politics. We have Jillian Mack. Jillian Mack has a whole bunch of different titles with the Libertarian Party, but I'll let her talk about exactly what they are. Jillian, are you there?
I'm here. It's nice to talk to you, Steve.
Hey, Jillian, how you doing today? Well,
I'm great, thanks.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, yes, I wear a lot of hats. I am the finance director for the Libertarian Party of Ohio. I also sit on the as an elected position and executive committee of the Libertarian Party of Ohio. I'm also an elected member of the Libertarian National Committee. I'm on that board. And I am co-founder and co-chair of a brand new organization called the Young Libertarian National Alliance, which is something that Brett Pajunas, who is a Las Vegas native, I founded to compete with Young Democrats and Young Republicans.
No, apparently Melody Howard knows the father, Bill Pajunas, and she didn't hear about the son, Brett Pajunas. Jillian, could you tell us why you decided to go with the Libertarian Party instead of the other two parties that are well known, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party?
Sure. Actually, I was raised pretty far left Democrat, and I may have always voted that way if I hadn't had my eyes opened. It was actually back in college. I was about 20 years old, and I saw a John Stossel report about the 2000 presidential election, the first one I was old enough to vote in, and he reported on all of the parties, and I just sort of scratched my head and said, oh, there's more than two options? I didn't know that. And when he talked about the Libertarian Party message, I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. I'm not a Democrat at all. And I just started doing my research, and it was just perfect for me. So I signed up immediately. I co-founded the Miami University College Libertarians that year. I was vice president of the group, and I've just been active and passionate about it ever since because it just makes sense to me. The principles make sense.
Well, recently you had your candidate that's running for U.S. President, Governor Gary Johnson, who is part of the Libertarian Party. Why do you think none of the media showed up for that press conference you guys had at the Plaza?
That wasn't a press conference. That was just an event that we did a panel discussion on. Remember, Doug Stanhope was there, the comedian, and Ron, the American Dream Johnson, who is the world light heavyweight champion. Was
the press invited?
No, they were welcome to attend. There was some press there, but our purpose behind that was mainly to get our own video recording of this, of some higher profile supporters of Governor Johnson, and try to get the message about the Libertarian Party out there, and particularly the campaign that we're working on called Double the LP, which we're working on right now, which is the whole concept behind it is, hey, anyone who's a Libertarian Party member out there, you probably know somebody, at least one person in your life, who is a Libertarian, but who is not a member of the Libertarian Party.
Go
out and ask them to join.
What is a Libertarian philosophy? I mean, what do they stand for?
It's pretty basic, and it's very consistent. Basically, we believe in individual rights and personal responsibility. So the government shouldn't be involved in controlling your life.
That sounds
your
like
life. You should make your decision.
That sounds like a Republican standpoint, isn't it?
Not really, because a lot of the Republicans want to control your life from a social perspective. So we take a stance that on fiscal issues, we are far more conservative than Republicans. Republicans, they tax and spend like crazy. They do it a little bit less than Democrats, but that's not good enough for Libertarians.
Okay.
We believe in very, very low taxes.
Jillian, I have a question for you, because you mentioned that you do not, government intervention. Don't you believe the government does need to intervene in certain ways? We have to have a law. We have to have
absolutely.
Infrastructure. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I haven't had a very good relationship with the Libertarian Party, and I did attend one of their meetings here probably 15 years ago. And I will not deny that I probably got waylaid by probably the two fringest people that could have been there. One who believed that children, if they can say yes, should be allowed to have sex with adults. And the other one believed that people should be allowed to walk around naked in public, and also to turn around and have sex in the park, regardless of whether or not there are children there, because they believe in no government at all. And it was more of an anarchy type of person. And we left at that point. I didn't stick around to meet anybody else. It just is, that's what it is. And so I
would have left too.
Exactly. And I know I've met Wayne Allen Root, and he's a pretty amazing guy, and he's very balanced. I mean, and I realize I probably met the craziest people that you could all possibly meet, but I would kind of see how far you're willing to go with that whole not anti-government, but lack of government intervention.
Yeah, you definitely met some of the most fringe people out there. There's no question. That does not accurately represent the members of the Libertarian Party. So I would encourage you, particularly now. You're located in Las Vegas, is that right?
Yeah, and I know Bill Pagenis, and I know.
Oh, great.
I know many libertarians.
What are some of the controversial principles that the party endorses or stands behind?
Well, I'd have to ask you that, because I frankly don't find any of the principles to be controversial.
No, not you, but other parties find it controversial. They disagree with it. They question it. What are some of the things that the party's coming under fire for as far as their belief system?
Well, from the left, our economic stance. People on the left don't particularly like our economic stance because we're fiscal conservatives. We believe in a balanced budget. We believe in extremely low taxes, as low as possible, because the Constitution clearly defines what the federal government should be doing. It should be protecting us from infringements of our rights from other people, and it should be protecting us from foreign aggressors who would try to do us harm. But there isn't a whole lot more besides those things, protecting our rights and protecting our safety from aggressors, that they should be doing. So a very low tax system would obviously be all that's necessary in order to maintain a government that has the limited functions that are listed out in the Constitution. So Democrats often take issue with that because, they're into social programs and a lot of social programs and a lot higher taxation and, kind of moving money around to whatever their pet projects are.
Cradle
On
to
the
grave.
other side of things, I'm sorry?
Cradle to grave.
Yes, exactly. So they take issue with our stance on that. Now, from the other direction, the Republicans tend to take issue with our stance on social issues. We are socially accepting. However you want to live your life personally, if it doesn't harm somebody else, that's your business. So, for example, marriage equality. We do believe in marriage equality. In fact, ultimately, we just believe that the government shouldn't be in the business of marriage. So it's a contract between adults, and adults should be able to enter into that contract, whether it's 2 men or 2 women or a man and a woman. It shouldn't matter. So we take that stance, which Republicans tend to disagree with. The same thing with things like using marijuana. If you want to sit in your home and use marijuana, that doesn't affect me. I don't care. There's no reason that you should have to go to jail for that. You haven't hurt anybody. Maybe you could argue they're hurting themselves, but that's their business. So it's not my business, and we waste hundreds of millions of dollars incarcerating people who haven't hurt anybody.
Well, Jillian, I want to thank you for coming on the show, but we're running out of time. How could the listeners get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me at jillian.mack@lp.org, JILLIAN.MACK and they can, please, feel free to browse lp.org, take a look at our statement of principles, our platform. It's very clear, it's very consistent, it respects the Constitution and the rights of the individual.
Well, thank you so much, Jillian, for coming on the show. That's Jillian Mack. She wears many hats with the Libertarian Party, and they're hoping to make a third party within this country very strong indeed. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes, and Melody Howard. Veterans in Politics don't go away, folks. We're going to have Larry Brown, Clark County Board of County Commissioners.
Join the Nevada election coverage on the KLAV Roundtable November 5th from 7 to 10 p.m. with Steve Sanson, Sir Cooper, Miguel Barrientos on your dial at AM 1230. Don't miss it.
The KLAV Roundtable, a Nevada pre-election special, Monday, November 5th, 7 to 10 p.m. Our hosts will discuss the impact and significance our votes will have. Join us Monday night at 7.
This is Steve Sands, Andre Haynes, Melody Howard, Veterans in Politics. We have Larry Brown, Clark County Board of County Commissioner, District C. Larry, how you doing today, Commissioner?
Good, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Were you singing last night?
I was a couple groups yesterday, a couple groups this morning.
Wow.
The voice is fading.
You're losing your voice, Commissioner. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Born and raised in Boston, attended Harvard University, graduated with a degree in government, signed a professional baseball contract, brought me to Las Vegas. 1983, where my catcher at the time was Bruce Bochy.
And what was the baseball club's name?
Las Vegas Stars, the original Stars. But Bochy now has won 2 World Series in the last 3 years, and I like to take credit for teaching him everything he knows. 30 years ago. My wife and I were married in the off season. We came back in 84 after baseball. It's been 30 years in Las Vegas. Raised 3 children in Las Vegas and worked at the Water District, served on the City Council, and now I am a county commissioner. That's the short bio.
What boards do you sit on in the county commission?
Currently, I chair the Regional Transportation Commission, Regional Flood Control District, Clean Water Coalition, vice chairman of Metro Fiscal Affairs, serve on the Water Reclamation District and the Water District Board of Directors.
Okay. Why do you want to get reelected again, Commissioner?
The same reason that I got into politics 15 years ago, and that's simply public service. I think that an elected official serves the public in ways that so many other public servants do, whether it be police or fire or military. It is a very honorable profession if people are in it for the right reasons. And perhaps the most succinct answer is each and every day, Steve, we as elected officials, especially at the local level, have the ability to impact the quality of life that our citizens face each and every day.
Do you think that a commissioner will make more of an impact in people's everyday lives, or the office of mayor, because you ran for office of mayor last year, Which one of those you think would be more beneficial towards the constituency?
I think they're similar. The mayor's more a symbolic position for sure. The city council members, City of Las Vegas now, representing their wards are very similar to the county commissioners representing our district. We do a lot of things on a similar basis, but the county, certainly on a regional basis, we have UMC, we have social services, we have the court system. So it's a broader perspective, but both council and commission, I think, directly affect our citizens.
Tell us a little bit about the Fiscal Affairs Committee, because you're the co-chair for the Fiscal Affairs Committee, right?
Yeah, the vice chairman.
And you oversees Metro's budget, so to speak.
Correct.
All the lawsuits that come through there and stuff like that, right? Tell us a little bit about sitting on that board.
Well, it's a very specific purpose. Since the sheriff, by statute, is an elected position, it's his agency. Operational policies and procedures, he runs that organization. But statute also delineates that the City of Las Vegas and Clark County Commission will have 2 representatives on that committee, along with one private sector who serves as our chairman, Jim Hammer, currently. And our role is to approve the annual budget for Metro, which then gets sent to the city and the county for final approval.
Does the Police Protective Association get involved in any of the fiscal affairs business?
Not too often. Certainly when negotiations come into play, we are briefed. We don't, as a board, participate in the negotiations, but the collective bargaining with PPA, PPACE, our civilian employees, PMSA, the managers and supervisors, those collective bargaining units, when they do reach settlement or agreement, or that final is brought to the fiscal affairs for approval.
Okay. The sheriff showed up twice in the papers asking for more money, and I don't sit on the fiscal affairs like you do, but I know some of the stuff that's going on. I look at, why should we taxpayers give more money to the sheriff when he has about, I would say about 200 of his employees making about $180,000+ a year. He's paying $1 million a month for what I call the Taj Mahal, which is the headquarters over on MLK and Alta. $1 million a month in rent. When he has all these officers that are on paid administrative leave, some's been on paid administrative leave for the past 2 years, which I personally think should be a cap on paid administrative leave. And I know when an officer goes on a paid administrative leave, since they have a hiring freeze, they're going to have to pull other officers to work overtime, which makes more money for that particular officer. Why should the county taxpayers or even the Fiscal Affairs Committee approve any more monies towards the Metropolitan Police Department?
How do you really feel about it, Steve? It's interesting because right now Metro is facing anywhere from a $40 million to a $60 million deficit this upcoming fiscal year, which will start July 1st of 2013. We've had deficits the last 2 years, but we've used our reserve funding to balance the budget. Here's a situation, and it's pretty simple. I think the Metro budget 2 or 3 years ago had reached a point of close to $540, maybe $550 million. The numbers may be off a little bit. The sheriff has now submitted a tentative budget, or is talking about $502 million. So over the past few years, the budget has been reduced drastically, and there are signs that it's having its impact. First and foremost, we had reached what we call the officer per capita of 2.06 officers per 1,000 in Las Vegas and Clark County. And that was a milestone that they had tried to go after for a couple of years. That number now is down in and around the 1.7, 1.72. It may even go down further. And for the first time in almost a decade, crime statistics are creeping up. So there's an impact. As you mentioned, we have a hiring freeze. We've suspended the last 2 training academies. So the question now is, are we getting to the tipping point where we do not have enough officers on the street? That's the bigger question. How are we going to fund even a budget of $502 million, which is reflective of that shortfall? Metro is funded significantly by property taxes. That's drastically down, as with the city and the county, drastically down. When you bring up the specifics, Steve, and they're legitimate, some of these lawsuits that have been settled, some of the officers on leave, the payment of some of your senior officials, that is something that certainly the fiscal affairs can ask about, but that is more of a function of the sheriff in running his department. Those salaries are based on all the collective bargaining, certainly over the last 30 years. Our role is not to, and I don't think personally, my role is to start getting down into the weeds of any public agency, because that's not my role. Unlike the county manager who answers to us on the commission, the sheriff indirectly answers to us. But it's his agency, and he's responsible for some of those things that you raise. But my concern as a representative of fiscal affairs right now is we are getting close to a point where public safety is going to be jeopardized because of funding. And there's no easy solution. The other thing, just to complicate it even more, is a few years ago we passed the More Cops initiative, which now has an account balance of over $100 million. But we can't, we now, Fiscal Affairs Metro, can't touch that fund unless we can hire officers out of our general fund. The More Cops initiative can only be utilized to complement the general fund officers. So with a freeze on general fund officers, we have this fund sitting over here that is untapped, and we can't get more officers on the street. We are going to go to Carson City and look for some flexibility, but that's the dialogue that's happening now. Bottom line, how to meet the shortfall of $40 to $60 million, and how to stop this downward spiral of officers per capita and upward numbers creeping up with crime. I know that's long-winded, but it's important. It's very important.
I understand where you're going with that. I wanted to, Andre. I wanted to, Andre.
I was sorry. I was going to say, Commissioner, that fund you mentioned and the other funds that are distributed, what happens with the interest that is earned on that money?
It stays right in the fund. The More Cops initiative, and it has grown significantly over the last few years, but it's untouchable. That was a voter-approved initiative.
What do you mean by untouchable, Commissioner?
The only way we can utilize the More Cops initiative funding is for officers on the street. But we can't pull those officers on the street. They can only be hired proportionally to how many officers are hired out of the general fund.
How can you change the way that money is distributed?
Melody, it's a question. Is
that a ballot initiative?
It's a question that's being looked at both from a policy standpoint and a legal perspective, because as a voter, I support the More Cops initiative, knowing that it's only going to be used as we hire more officers to bring even more officers on. If I ask that same voter, listen, do you mind? We're stuck. We're moving in reverse with our general fund shortfalls. Do you mind if we tap into the More Cops initiative to bring police officers on the street? That's the question that has to be answered, because it's the voters that said, we'll give you that quarter-cent sales tax.
Okay, but I guess maybe my position is, if it is a ballot initiative and it were brought to the voters of saying, well, we can either hire more cops, which is going to increase our budget significantly because we're going to have to cover their salaries eventually as they gain in steps and everything. Would it not be better to have the cops that we already have and put them into these positions, and we don't actually increase our force, we just increase our cops on the actual streets? Does that make sense?
It does. And believe me, when I say the More Cops initiative, the funding is there.
Right.
The officers are not. Those would have to be hired through our training academies and currently in conjunction with new officers from the general fund. But that's the question we are going to ask legislatively, legally, and ultimately to the voters. Will they give us the flexibility to access those dollars to put police on them?
But that would take 4 years, would it not?
It may.
2014, 2016, because don't you have to pass the initiatives twice?
Melody, you're right on point, and that's the legal question that's being asked. We, and I certainly would not want to circumvent that voter initiative.
Right.
But legislatively or legally, if we can access it in a transparent way, we're not going to try to hide anything. But literally, and bottom line, more cops on the street today, what is that going to be received by the general public?
Commissioner, I'm going to switch the tables a little bit. I'm a little confused by this. Recently, earlier this year, actually, the county commissioners went after Las Vegas Constable John Bonaventura for a video that his staff made. And John Bonaventura is an elected official, and John Bonaventura does not take any tax money from the county. All their money is coming from filing fees, so they don't take any Clark County money, so to speak. Now, the sheriff, his folks shot and killed unarmed citizens, and none of the county commissioners that I've seen voice that opinion or take a public stand on it or position on it. And then when I ask why don't they do that, they say, well, because he's an elected official. And then it comes back to me. I'm saying, well, John Bonaventura is elected official too. So why is it that they went after a Las Vegas constable who doesn't take any tax money from the county and go after him because his office made a video, but don't speak up against the sheriff who they give 60% of tax dollars to, and his folks is killing unarmed citizens? Could you just tell me the reason why they went after one and not the other?
Well, first and foremost, Steve, you've got to be careful generalizing your statements when you say the county commission went after the constable's office. I mean, there's a lot of room for debate there.
Okay.
Criticizing the video, and if you've seen the video,
I've seen it.
It was in poor taste. I think the constable acknowledged that it, quote, was a training video and would not be used. And there are some operational issues that he's being not accused of, but challenged, not only by the commission, but constables throughout. There's a little constable battle going on. That's going to handle itself. As far as the metro, again, I'd be real careful when you say no county commissioners have responded to that.
That I've seen.
Well, I think that's wrong. See, some of those shootings are tragic. You ask, you don't have to be a county commissioner to ask, how can this happen? Especially some of the more profiled ones. At the same time, what are you going to do? Hold a press conference and say this is bad? I mean, what do you do to fix what is perceived as a problem? And I think we've done some steps, the commission and certainly the sheriff and Metro. They've invited the investigation and they've changed their use of force policies. They've revised a lot of their training. So they're moving in the right direction. Is it going to bring back the lives that we've lost? No. But I will say this, and I feel very strongly about it. If there was one or two or three shootings that could have been prevented, then we have to get to the point to prevent them. But I am not going to let 1, 2, or 3 incidents cast the shadow over thousands of Metro men and women that go out each and every day and protect us as individuals, as families, as a community. We have a strong police force, a good police force that has acknowledged past mistakes, and we just have to continue to improve.
Okay. Well, Commissioner, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And how could we get a hold of you, the listeners?
L. Brown at Clark County, spelt out, nv.gov. Quick shout out to my son in Fort Bragg, member of the 82nd Airborne, 2nd Brigade, Red Falcons, 325. Lara, I love you.
County Commissioner, I just want to say one thing, that one life is one too many, especially when you wear the badge. Because that person won't go home to their families anymore, and they're dead forever. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes, Melody Howard with Veterans in Politics. Until next week.
Views and opinions
opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.